Thought of the past, phantoms of a world gone by, speak again the immortal tale, Frankenstein.
The wind howling outside my lonely home is my only companion. All else is quiet here as I sit by my window in the parlor writing this document for the scientific world. Be warned, you doctors and scientists who come after me. Be warned that man must not experiment with the secrets of life. My experiences started in the University of Manchester, where I was studying natural history. It was after class, May 22nd, 1818, that Professor Waldman, my close dear friend Henry Clerval, and myself were in the laboratory of the university.
Victor Frankenstein, your persistence amazes me. Someday I shall sit at your feet and allow you to teach me.
Thank you, Professor Waldman. But the whole subject of the structure of man has always been too clouded in mysticism.
Well, frankly, Victor, I prefer mysticism.
That's because you're a mystic, Henry.
Why, Henry's no more a mystic than I am. He just loves to avoid arduous work.
Oh, translating that means I'm lazy, eh, Professor?
Well, if you prefer to put it that way, I rather think of you as a student whose nervous structure does not take kindly to natural history.
The professor's kinder to you than you are to yourself, Henry.
Well, if I worked as hard as you do, Victor, I should probably wear that same gaunt, sleepless look that you carry about.
Well, my experiment will be finished tonight. And then I'll manage the 8-hour sleep that other men manage.
The secret experiment will be finished tonight, huh?
Well, then, will you tell us just exactly what you're doing in the basement at home?
I'll tell the entire world. As a matter of fact, I stayed after class this afternoon, Professor Waldman, to ask you to join me this evening in the basement of our place to watch the completion of my work.
Well, how about me?
I don't think I dare invite more than one, Henry. And the professor is more interested in this type of procedure than you are.
I shall be delighted, Victor.
Just the best friend who never knows what's going on in his own home, that's all.
It's not that, Henry. But I thought you'd entertain Elizabeth for me, while the professor and I were at work.
Entertaining Elizabeth will be a delightful favor, old boy. You know, I think you trust me too much with her. Have you ever met Victor's fiancée, Professor Waldman? She's one of the most charming.
Yes, Elizabeth was one of the most charming, beautiful women I'd ever known. I had been in love with her from childhood, but even my love for Elizabeth couldn't dim my passionate zeal for the work I was doing. It was 8 o'clock that evening. Henry, Elizabeth, and I were seated in the parlor. Elizabeth was saying...
I'll be so glad, Victor, darling, when all this is over. If you only knew how tired you look.
The minute my work is done, successfully or unsuccessfully, I promise you, Elizabeth, we'll be married and off to Switzerland before Henry has time to lock up this place.
But first, we find out about the secret in the basement.
Henry's being eaten up by curiosity.
I don't blame him. I'm suffering pangs of what's it all about, too.
Well, you'll both know soon. I wonder where Professor Waldman is. He's late.
He'll be here soon, Victor. Stop pacing the floor, sweetheart.
I think I'll start my work downstairs. Send the professor down when he arrives, will you, darling?
We'll come down ourselves and take a look around. Or will I turn into a pillar of salt for peeking?
Nobody ever turned into a pillar of salt for peeking, Beth. It was for looking back.
Oh, nothing like a good practical working knowledge of the Bible for scientific experiments. Starts the night off right.
Yes, I thought jokingly of that paragraph from the Bible then. And she was turned into a pillar of salt. But what about a man who looks back? There is no ready reference for him or for me. I went downstairs to my laboratory at a little past 8, opened the door, and started to tinker around to pass the time more quickly. My every sense was alive, taut, waiting, with the sense of what was to come. I heard a knock on the side door, which led me from my laboratory directly into the forest, which bordered Manchester. I looked out and...
Good evening, Victor.
Oh, did Elizabeth tell you to come down this way, Professor?
No, I found the entrance to your laboratory quite by myself.
Help you with your coat, sir?
No. You proceed with your work. Nothing like trivialities to annoy a scientist at work. There we are.
Well, follow me, Professor, into the back room, and you'll see for yourself what this is all about.
Well, I feel that I'm in for a most exhilarating evening. I wish I had more students fashioned in your mold, Victor.
Well, Professor, here is my...
Why, what's this? A full-sized replica of a man.
Yes. only he isn't full-sized. He's fashioned on a grander scale. I should say this creature standing up would be approximately 8 feet 2 inches tall.
Well, you should have been an artist, Victor. He's a perfect reproduction. What did you make him out of? Wood? Clay?
Animal flesh.
Flesh?
Feel him.
Oh, feels like the body of a dead man.
Or the body of a man who hasn't as yet been brought to life. This body is complete in every detail. Heart, lungs, teeth, even the fine nervous system.
Well, it's interesting. Yes, interesting. How about the brain cells?
Yes, adult brain cells. I think he's quite handsome, don't you?
Well, each man to his own taste. He's the best reproduction of a man I've ever seen, but actually his face is hideous. As a plastic surgeon, my dear Victor, I'm afraid I can't give you much credit. Well, what do you intend to do with this Hulk?
You see this fluid here in the test tube?
Yes?
I filled the hypodermic needle with it. And now I'm going to inject the full 8 ounces into the vein, directly above his heart.
But why?
Watch. You see, Professor, quite by accident, I stumbled on the secret of life. I've been bringing small, one-cell creatures to life for quite some time.
The secret of life?
Within 30 seconds, after this injection, this creature will live.
You're trying to play God, Victor. It's heresy.
It's science. I'm making a new race, by far finer than the present one. Larger in structure, stronger, heavier, healthier. A race able to live on nuts and berries. With a greater capacity for feeling.
Victor, for the love of heaven, don't go through with this experiment. No man living has the right to tamper with the secret of life. You've created a monster on that floor. You've no idea what will happen if you go through with this.
Watch, Professor. The injection.
I only hope and pray this is a failure.
It can't be. His eyes moved. Watch him, Professor. He's like a baby, first realizing life. His hands touch the floor. His eyes are trying to focus on the world around him.
He's hideous.
Yes, he's hideous. I made the skin too much like parchment, I'm afraid.
Victor, get rid of that monster.
Trying to stand up.
If that mind which you've created is a twisted one, have you any idea what kind of horror you've let loose in England? As a humanitarian, I feel it my Christian duty to do this now.
Put that knife down, Professor.
No, I can't let... Ooh! Oh, he's got me in the clutch of his hand. Command him to stop this, Victor.
Stop fighting him, Professor. He's frightened. He has the same reactions as a child. Grabs and won't let loose.
Let me go, monster.
Stop! Don't go out that door! Put the professor down! Don't go out that door! Monster left my laboratory through the side entrance into the forest, carrying the incredibly mangled body of the professor with him. I rushed out of my laboratory after him, but the creature was faster than I, and he disappeared from view. I returned to my laboratory and destroyed all evidence of the creature's manufacture. I burned the blueprints from which I had made his body. Then, carefully, I locked my laboratory and went upstairs to join Henry Clerval and Elizabeth. I must have looked wild-eyed as I entered the...
Henry, that's most amusing. You tell the best anecdotes in all of England.
Oh, you flatter me, Elizabeth.
Oh, Victor, you're through sooner than we expected. Darling, what's the matter?
Didn't the professor show up?
Nothing's the matter. My experiment was a failure.
But the professor...
He never showed up. Bev, Henry, I want to go away.
Of course, darling, we will, as soon as Henry can get the house locked up.
I don't want to wait. I want to leave at once. Tonight, please, tonight, Bev. We can get married before we cross the channel and then go to Switzerland.
But it's almost midnight now, darling.
What's the difference? Please, Bev, if you love me.
But why tonight, Victor?
Henry, you've no idea what I've been through. I have to get away at once.
Of course, darling, if you insist. Anything you want.
And we'll be married before daylight. Darling, darling, Bev. I know a little minister whom we can await. And so Beth and I were married that evening in a little chapel on the coast. Then the three of us fled to Bern, Switzerland. I refused to have anything to do with the civilized world. No newspapers, no word of home. Just the peace and quiet of the Swiss mountains. Henry and Elizabeth both tried to learn of the events which had occurred in my laboratory that evening. But I never broke my silence on that subject. After the first tries, they refrained from asking me about it again. It was in the middle of the 4th month of our visit when Henry and I were sitting on the terrace of the little house in the mountains. Beth was out picking berries when Henry suddenly...
Victor, I'm your closest friend. I've tried to keep silent about... Well, Victor, the day after we left England, I bought a newspaper.
Did you, Henry?
Yes, I saw this clipping on the front page. I couldn't very well miss it.
What clipping?
This one. The horribly mangled remains of Professor Waldman was found on Beekman Hill. The identity of the unknown murderer is being sought by Scotland Yard.
Poor Professor Waldman. I'd no idea.
Hadn't you?
No. What are you trying to say to me, Henry?
You're leaving England so suddenly that very night. Your fear of being discovered, the secret experiment. Well, it all seemed to add up to some kind of strange connection with this clipping. Now, if you're in trouble, Victor, you can depend on me. I'll stay by your side.
I'm not in trouble. I'm just tired, terribly tired.
And you know nothing of the professor?
Absolutely nothing.
He didn't come to our chateau that evening.
I told you he didn't then. Stop questioning me. We're out here, Bear.
Oh, I've just had a horrible experience. Oh, darling, I'm so glad to see you.
You're pale, Bear. Sit down right here next to me.
Well, what happened, Beth?
Well, I was walking in the woods not far from here when I looked up and saw... Well, I saw a man. Sort of a man standing over me.
Well, men aren't so bad. That is, if you happen to know the right ones. And you do.
I'm not joshing, Henry. He wasn't exactly a man. He was twice the height of anyone I've ever seen. And his skin looked like dried parchment. It's incredible, but I think I've seen a monster.
Monster?
Yes, I ran away. He didn't follow me. He just stared after me, watching me. You do believe me, don't you?
A monster stared after you?
Look, Henry. Victor, through the trees right out there. Look, there he is again.
Yes, the monster stood there, silhouetted against the trees. The monster which I had created, standing like an evil blot of flesh and bone, moved in the darkening twilight. And then suddenly, phantom-like, it disappeared. Beth and Henry both watched me as I started from the piazza after the disappearing creature in the backwoods. As I drew near to the heavily wooded section, giant footprints in the soft mud about me showed the path ahead. The sun was sinking in the west, and the last orange pinpoints of light needled my flesh until every sense within me was tingling with the expectations of seeing my living horror. Then I realized I was unarmed. Every crooked tree, each twisted branch which obstructed my path, appeared to be his form. I heard the crackling of a branch and the moving of a form on the velvet moss.
I thought you'd come, Creator.
You.
Are you frightened, Creator?
You dare talk to me.
Please don't turn away from me. Please.
Let me go.
I mean no harm to you. Listen to me, Victor Frankenstein. You must listen to me. You created me. You owe me that much.
I owe you nothing, murderer.
Why am I a murderer? Because you created a form so horrible, a face so distorted that no man can look upon me and call me friend. I'm an outcast. You can save me.
Let me go.
Not until you hear my story. Sit down, Creator.
My arm!
Children screamed in the streets. People flocked together, trying to kill me. And I was lonely and hungry.
How did you follow me here?
Not so long ago, I returned to my birthplace, the laboratory, broke in, and discovered your identity. But first, I fled to Scotland and lived outside of a cottage. That's how I learned to speak. An old blind man was teaching a young French girl to speak English. I listened to the lessons from the open windows.
Now, what do you expect of me?
A companion. A woman of the same species, with my defects. One who will be my friend. This being you must create.
No, I'll not do it.
You must. Every man's entitled to a wife.
No.
You must. If you create her for me, I'll take her with me into the far wastes, and no one will ever see either of us again. Ever.
How will you live?
On fruits and berries. We'll manage together. Please, you can't deny me this.
A maid. A monster's maid.
You will. You will. I swear, I'll never harm another human. Never create her. If you'll only grant me just one companion.
And if I refuse?
If you refuse, even a brain that you have made, creator, might become twisted and distorted.
And so that night in the forest, I made a devil's bargain. I bargained to create a monster's mate, perhaps another murderer. How could I know? The monster swore to live in the forest and wait a year or 2 years if necessary. And upon completion of my work, he would take his companion away. But if I broke my promise, he swore revenge. And so I started work. I searched Paris for the necessary equipment, built a shack in the woods about a mile away from our chalet. 3 months I worked, 3 solid months, shaping her who was to be his mate. And then one night, it was windy outside. I thought the wind had blown the door open when...
Victor, I'm sorry. I had to disturb you.
Is it Beth?
No, not Beth. She's fine and sends her love. It's the townspeople. Your activities have stirred up a lot of curiosity.
Oh, the fools!
Well, I can't blame them, especially after the rumors which have been going around. Rumors of the... Victor, you know the monster in these forests. You've known of him all along. People have seen him and connect him with you. Mothers in the village are frightened of their children.
I know nothing.
Look, I'm only trying to help you.
I know nothing, I tell you.
But the men have banded together. They're going to make a raid on you here, to burn your laboratory down, and to find the monster who lives in these woods.
They can't. They mustn't.
Oh, what devil's work are you carrying on, man? I'm trying to help you. Oh, Victor, will you please let your friends be your friends?
Henry, go back to Beth and leave me alone.
Beth is safe at home. You're in danger, and I won't leave your side this night, my friend.
Then be prepared.
Prepared for what?
You've guessed many of the reasons for my secrecy.
Then there is a monster.
At school, I stumbled on the secret of life. I was trying to create a superior race. I was a fool, and I created him instead.
And he does live?
Yes, he lives.
Professor Waldman. What happened to Professor Waldman?
The night I created the monster, Waldman became frightened. He screamed, attempted to kill the creature. The creature, like a child, warded him off and then tore him to pieces in front of me. I couldn't stop him. The monster had killed before it had really begun to live.
Then what?
The monster left the basement through the side entrance, carrying the professor's corpse. I had no choice. I had to leave the country.
Oh, what are you doing with that creature now?
Fulfilling a promise. Follow me into my cabin and I'll show you. How soon do you think the townsfolk will be here?
Oh, within 2 hours or so. They're meeting in the square in town.
Come in.
What? A woman?
Yes, a woman. The monster's mate, his friend. I promised him a friend, And in return, he swears to hide himself forever from the world.
A devil's bargain, Victor.
A bargain I must keep for all our sakes.
But the monster proved himself a murderer time and time again. Why, in London after the death of Professor Waldman.
Time and time again.
But how do you know that the mate won't be even more vicious than he? You'll let loose an avalanche of hatred. Oh, destroy her before you bring her to life.
Yes, avalanche of hatred.
Look, you've no time to waste. Set fire to this cabin quickly, Victor. Set fire to the cabin and come away. But man alive, you can't go through with this thing.
But the promise.
It's a promise to a fiend. He'll be your death and ours, Victor. Oh, hurry, man, hurry, if you've any love for Beth.
I've been insane with grief and fear for Beth and you. Go back to Beth, Henry, at once and wait for me.
And you?
I'll set fire to the cabin as soon as I destroy my books. I'll join you later.
Well, hurry, friend. We'll meet you home as soon as you can make it.
For 1 full hour, I worked feverishly. I soaked the shack in oil, and then taking a taper from the vase, I lit the fire. The fire started quickly. I placed my books in the very center of the room, and then opened the door of my shack. The experiment was at an end, and I felt free. The monster's mate would never live. I walked out, and then I saw him, his face contorted with rage.
My wife! My only dead devil friend! My only dead!
I knew then what was in his mind as he raced through the forest in front of me. The blazing shack was a beacon of light, and I saw his huge, misshapen form outdistance me, far outdistance me. He was faster than I, taller than I, and covered more territory. Racing, running blindly through the forest, I reached my home. The door of my home was flung open. Henry, mutilated and torn, stumbled blindly toward me.
Victor, the monster.
Henry, what?
I tried to, Victor.
Henry, you.
Beth's alone. Upstairs.
Beth, I'm coming, darling, I'm coming. I'm coming upstairs. I'm coming, darling, I'm coming. If you kill her, Beth! Beth, oh, my darling. My darling. Oh, Beth, no. No. Both you and Henry. Both dead.
You two are alone, Creator.
Yes. Both of them were dead. All my dear ones gone from me now. And I'm alone. The wind howling outside my window is my only companion. All else is quiet as I sit by my window, writing this document. I am dying of loneliness and fear, shunned by the world, hated by everyone. I know I am waiting only for the monster's return. And he, having eluded the world, will return when I've suffered my full share of misery, as he has suffered his.
From the time-worn pages of the past, we have brought you the story, Frankenstein. Bellkeeper, pull the bell.
Good evening, friends of the creaking door. This is your host to welcome you once again into the inner sanctum. Come on in. for the crime of your life. And meet one of the illustrious inmates from our Who's Who. This cadaverous cut-up is Mr. Seymour Blade. His wife had a tiff with him and punctuated it with a kitchen knife through the middle, which is, of course, one way of making your point sting. All right, then, lend a fear now to some grim happenings, and hear what kind of profit our star Boris Karloff in the role of Mark Devers reaped when he put up death for sale. The ashtray in the reception room is stuffed with half-smoked cigarettes. The disheveled man waiting paces his caged animal steps this way and that. Each second, his eyes dart to the door at the end of the room at the slightest sound. At last, the knob turns. The door swings wide open.
Well, Doctor? Well, your wife is in pretty bad shape.
Cora is my wife.
Oh, sorry. I thought...
Forget it. Bad shape. But you're going to pull out of it, right?
Mr. Devers...
She's not going to pull out of it?
Well, it doesn't look as if she will.
What?
There's a chance. Only a very small one, but still a chance.
You're lying. She's going to pull out of it. She's got to.
We're doing everything we can.
Look, even if she has to die, you could pull her out of it for an hour, couldn't you? Just an hour so that she could sign something and it means everything to me, Doc. You could give her a shot or something, couldn't you?
Good day, Mr. Devers.
I'll give you $5,000. Good. $10,000, Doc. And you fool, you don't understand. You've got to do this for me. You've got to. Doctor doesn't understand. He'd do the same in my case. So would you. So would anybody. $50,000. I was 1 hour away from $50,000. Money that belongs to me. My money that I waited 7 long years for, and I won't be cheated out of it. 7 long years. It all seemed so simple then, so sure. We had a perfect plan for $50,000, and nothing was going to keep us from it, and nothing did. Up to 3 weeks ago. That was when Cora called me at the office. I just thought she was imagining things again as she had right along. I told her so, but she said no. This man was watching her night and day.
He is, Mark. He's outside the house right now.
Oh, come now, Cora.
I tell you he is.
Oh, you're just imagining things again. Why don't you try to...
I'm not imagining anything. He's right outside the house across the street, and I'm...
You'll be positive after 7 years?
No, I've been wrong before, but this time I'm sure Elliot's come back and...
What?
The doorbell just rang.
Who is it? Evelyn?
I suppose so. We're supposed to go to the movies together.
Good idea. Take your mind off believing everyone you see is Elliot Starr.
You're not coming home, then?
Not till I've finished at the office.
All right, Mark. Suit yourself.
Goodbye, darling. My best to Evelyn.
Mark? Oh, all right, I'm coming. I was on the phone, Evelyn.
Aren't you going to ask me in? Oh, of course. After all these years, you've probably forgotten who I am. Allow me to introduce myself. My name is Elliot Starr, your beloved husband.
Elliot, you're supposed to be...
Dead? Yes, I know I'm supposed to be, Cora, but as you can see, I'm very much alive.
I knew it was you this time. I knew it.
I think you better ask me in, don't you? After all, it isn't very often that a husband comes back from the dead.
Back from the dead. That's what he was, all right. And when Cora called me this time, I didn't say I couldn't leave the office.
Yes.
All right, Cora, pull yourself together.
But, Mark, you don't understand.
Oh, yes, I do. You've been scared for the last 7 years. You're going to go on being scared for the rest of your life.
What, $5,000 more to disappear again?
And I didn't expect him to come back just to say hello. Of course he wants more money.
What are we going to do?
He knows that we collect that $50,000 insurance money 3 weeks from now. He says if we don't come through with this 5, he'll go straight to the insurance company and
don't be a fool. He's in this thing as much as we are. He won't do anything to spoil his chances. All he wants is money.
The longer he's around, the more chance we take that somebody might recognize him. Mark, we can go to jail.
We waited a long time to get our hands on this money, and I don't expect to be cheated out of it now.
You're going to give him the 5,000.
I don't know. Maybe.
But
nothing. When did he say he's coming back?
Tonight. After midnight.
All right. I'll be here. We'll handle Elliot once and for all, and after this time, there won't be any coming back. I guess no matter how carefully you plan, there's always that one small thing you fail somehow to cover. 7 years before, I was sure we'd covered everything. And it was clever. Really clever. The law says that if a body isn't recovered after 7 years' time, a man is declared legally dead. So we found us a body, Cora and I did. We found Elliot Starr. Sold him on death for $5,000.
Sure, I'll do it. I'll marry Cora and then disappear. For $5,000, you can sell me on anything.
He married Cora, and a little while after the policy was issued, his automobile was found at the bottom of Ridgely's Pond. Well, the police dragged the water for days, but naturally didn't find the body, and the insurance people exercised their right to withhold payment till Elliot was declared legally dead.
I understand, gentlemen. And I don't even care about the money. All I care about is that my poor husband is dead.
It was clever, all right, and Cora put on a good act. We knew we'd cash in where others had failed because we weren't anxious. We were willing to wait for 7 years. And wait we did. It was a perfect plan. Nothing was going to keep us from it. Nothing except... Now, Elliot had come back. He swore he'd never return, and he'd gone back on his word. But by midnight, I'd made up my mind how to handle Elliot.
No, Mark.
The only way.
No.
The only way. This 5 that he wants, that's only the beginning. He'll hold us up all his life.
No.
He'll drain us dry of every cent of that 50,000.
I won't let you do
Yes,
it.
you will. We're in this far. You won't back down now.
I've got to. I never dreamed it would turn out like this.
Another few weeks and he'll be legally dead.
There must be another way.
Only this, believe me. And after it's done, it'll be you and me and nobody the wiser. Go on. Open the door for him. Cora, do what I say.
I can't.
You've got to. I'll be inside. Tell him everything is said.
I will.
Oh, Cora. Oh, won't you come in, Elliot? Thank you, my dear. Don't mind if I do. Mark here yet, Cora?
Yes. He's in the living room.
Oh, fine. Then you and Mark have agreed on the deal for me.
Yes, we have. Come in, Elliot. Everything's set.
No, Mark is waiting for Elliot in the, you'll pardon the expression, living room. Whatever happens to Elliot actually serves him right. After all, here in the sanctum, we don't go for live people walking around as if they were ghosts. It's enough to scare the death out of us. Poor Cora is so nervous. She just can't look a corpus delicti in the prima facie. Well, enough grave philosophy. Suppose we let our star, Boris Karloff, pick up our stock story where we left off.
Everything was set. I planned to kill Elliot with the knife I held behind me, and I felt absolutely no compunction about it.
You're joking.
No, Elliot.
You're crazy. Cora, stop him. You'll never get away with it. Ma, no!
I buried him in the back of the house. I say I did, because Cora wasn't much use to anyone that night or for several days afterwards. She got over it, as I knew she would. She got over it when she realized that I was right, that we had gotten away from it. And no one could ever know, and no one would miss it. She got over it when I reminded her that in just one more week, we'd be sharing that $50,000.
Just 1 week.
That's right, Cora.
I've been a lot of trouble to you these past few days. I am sorry.
Oh, forget it. It's all over.
Yes, it is. I'll feel a lot better when the money's actually ours. Somehow, way in the back of my mind, I feel that maybe we won't...
Oh, darling, it's as good as ours now. There's nothing left in the way, not a single thing.
1 week.
That's all. Now, wouldn't you know? You expecting anyone?
No,
Evelyn?
not at this hour.
Well, whoever it is, get rid of her.
Yes, darling. I'll get rid of it.
Yes, Mrs. Stein.
Yes,
Mrs. Elliot Stein.
that's right.
I want to talk to you. Here's my card.
Well, I'm sorry. I'm busy right now.
Too busy to see me. I can promise you that.
Oh, now, see.
Nice card, ain't it? Real fancy engraving. Mrs. Elliot Stein. That's right. I'm the woman Elliot married after he disappeared 7 years ago. Now, I don't think you're going to be too busy to see me after all. Do you?
Maybe it's fate. Maybe it's all in the cards. You work hard. You think out a plan that's letter perfect. Then up pops the unexpected, forcing you into the first desperate step to lick it. First Elliot Starnes himself, then his second wife that we didn't know existed.
And here's our wedding license, just in case you don't believe me. Here, you can look at it.
Take it easy, Cora. We believe you're his wife, Mrs. Starnes.
And he's got a birthmark.
We said we believe you. Now, what do you want?
Well, what does any good woman want? My husband.
And why come here?
Where else would I go?
I'm afraid we don't understand. Do we, Cora?
No, I'm afraid you do.
Now, look here.
I'm afraid you understand awful well. Elliot told me
Told you what?
what you two were doing. He also told me if he should fail to come home after a couple of
Mrs.
days...
Starnes, we haven't seen your husband for 7 years.
Now, you don't expect me to believe that, do you?
I don't see why not.
I do. You see, Mr. Devers, the other day, with my own eyes, I seen Elliot walk into this house. But I didn't see him walk out again. What's the matter, Mr. Devers? You got nothing to say?
What do you want, Mrs. Starnes?
My husband, of course. Only since you killed him, I can't very well have that, can I? What? He's the only man I ever loved, and you killed him. I never should have let him come here. For days I begged him not to.
Mrs.
I made a
Starnes.
mistake letting him come here. I know that now. But I want him back. I love him and I want Elliot back.
You want your husband, Mrs. Starnes? Or a substantial sum of money?
Huh?
How much?
How can you talk about money at a time like this?
5,000?
I left my husband, Mr. Devers.
7,500? Well, how much?
25,000. What? In cash.
Mark.
Let me handle this, Cora. And if we refuse?
Then I'll just naturally have to tell my story to the police.
Cora.
Oh, let's drop all the small talk, Mr. Devers. I want 25,000 and I want it fast. Now make up your mind.
I'll make up my
Now,
mind.
Mr. Devers, don't get rough. I'm not as dumb as my ex-husband. I've taken steps against anything happening to me.
No, Mark.
Better listen to her.
You're not getting away with this.
Then you don't get away with Elliot's murder.
Oh, help me,
Before you put that hand on me, you better have your lady friend look out that window.
What?
There's a taxi across the street, Mark.
My taxi. And the driver knows I'm in here. You'd have to kill him, too. Elliot's ever-loving second wife is here to stay. If you want to get her out of your life, the cost is going to be $25,000. By this time tomorrow night.
After she left, I had some work to do on Cora.
It won't be the same way, Mark. Not another murder.
Said anything like that.
Promise me. Not the same way.
Sure, promise. After all, if we can get away with $25,000, is that so bad?
I'd rather settle for none of it.
Huh?
That money won't do us any good now.
Why not?
It just won't.
Oh, you're all upset. You'll feel differently day after tomorrow when you sign those papers in the insurance office and they hand that fat check over to you.
No, Mark. I'll never feel differently about it again.
I knew I couldn't work Cora my way much longer. But it was just 2 more days. 2 more days to get that $50,000. Just 2 things to settle in just 2 days. First, there was Mrs. Starr. When she came to my apartment the next night, I handed the envelope over to her.
It's all here?
You can open the envelope and count it if you like.
I don't have to, do I?
And what if I cheated you?
You wouldn't. I could always come back.
You could always come back for more anyway.
What do you think I am?
Doesn't make any difference now what I think.
Okay. No hard feelings.
There are, but they won't bother me for long.
Of course not. That money you're collecting will cure that.
I'll be cured before then.
That's your business.
It's yours, too, now.
I don't see how.
Now, you see?
Put that knife down.
I will. Into you.
No. Don't. Please.
That door's locked. You can't get out.
Don't. You can have the money back.
There isn't any money in that envelope.
Huh?
Just clips of newspaper. Where can I get $25,000?
I don't care about the money.
I do. I cared about it for 7 years. Cared enough to murder once, and I could do it again. Now, Mrs. Starr, I've no hard feelings towards you. None at all. Just 2 things to take care of in just 2 days. The first, Mrs. Starnes was taken care of, and the second was now just an hour away. The $50,000 was waiting in the insurance office for Cora. All she had to do was sign her name on some papers to get it. Oh, you can imagine how relieved I was as I sat next to Cora when she drove to the insurance office. But it was different with Cora. Cora didn't say a word.
There's nothing left to say, Mark.
Oh, money won't make you talk, Cora. You wait and see. After you get your hands on the... Hey, you're taking the wrong street.
No, Mark.
Sure you are. This is the way.
It's the only way left for us, Mark.
Huh?
We're driving straight out of town. We're never coming back. There'll be no more murders.
Cora.
I know you killed that woman.
Now, where did you ever get that idea? I paid her and she left.
I was outside your apartment house last night.
All right. So you know now. What did you expect? I couldn't let it all go down the drain, not after 7 years? Turn the car around.
No.
You're going to sign those papers. I want that money.
It's too late, Bart.
Like fun it is.
Let go!
You're turning this car around.
Bart, the wheel, let go!
I wasn't even scratched in the crash. Cora wasn't that lucky. I rushed her here to the hospital. And you heard what the doctor said. There's a chance. Only a small one, but still a chance. No, the doctor doesn't understand. There's got to be more than only one small chance. I was 1 hour away from that $50,000. Money that belongs to me, money that I've waited 7 years for, and I won't be cheated out of it. Cora's got to live. She's got to sign those papers. Well, Doctor, there's someone waiting for you down the corridor, Mr. Steele. What about Cora?
not dead. She can't be.
The gentleman is from the police. She asked me to call.
The lie. She's not dead.
Mr. Devers, try to understand. She is...
No! It's not true, and I won't listen to you. She's got to sign those papers. You've only got to keep her alive another hour. You're a doctor. You can do that.
Mr. Devers,
7
please.
years. Don't you understand? Oh, I can't let 7 years go down the drain. 7 years. It can't turn out that way. No. She's not dead. So Mark's 50,000 went down the drain after all. And Mark went down the hatch. I was careful. You know, I can't feel sorry for Mrs. Starn. She should have known that a rolling widow gathers only moss to live. Yet, when you use a dead husband for blackmail, you're bound to end up face down. Or footnote, when you're dealing with life insurance, remember, honesty is the best policy. Well, friends, it's time once again to close that creaking door. Until next week at the same time, when we'll be back with a little hunk of horror. You'll be sure to listen, won't you? Until next week, then. Good night. Pleasant dreams. Sanctum has come to you through the worldwide facilities of the United States Armed Forces Radio and Television Service.